FC 25 Realism sliders and settings following title update number 2. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody who has signed up to be a member. I appreciate all of your guys' support, and I've been working very hard since the most recent title update to bring you guys the best settings and sliders to make your game as realistic as possible. Now, the first title update was not that significant, and neither is this one. These sliders, these settings have been made taking on board all of your reviews, all of your feedback following the very first video and following the update video that I made available to everybody. Of course, moving forward, only members will have access to these videos, and from the second tier of membership upwards will be where you have access to the full settings that I'll be updating throughout the cycle as well. This video will just be the basic settings and the basic sliders, but I hope you guys do enjoy them. So we're going to start things off with the sliders first, and the settings will come later in the video, but make sure to stick around for them as well, and make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate that. We're going to kick things off with the sprint speed, and it's been increased up to 35 for both user and CPU. Most people were asking me why the animation didn't look like the players were sprinting on the lower sprint speed. Okay, that has been resolved, having increased it up to 35. Again, not going to be a default to make the game a bit slower because we don't have that game speed option anymore. So we really have to play around with all the speed sliders to make the game slower. So sprint speed is lower from default but higher from the previous set on 35. Acceleration is also higher from the previous set, up to 49, and this is taking into account people saying players are not getting that tired. Of course, this is effective acceleration, and some people saying they still have the animation where it seems as if their defenders specifically are running through mud, right? That didn't happen too much to me, but then taking your feedback in mind, I have increased it up to 49, and you'll see in the gameplay here how the defenders accelerate, how they move from a standstill into that sprinting animation. So the acceleration has been up to 49 for both user and CPU as well. The shot error slider is on 62 for the user, and it's on 60 for the CPU. Now, you're going to see a lot of the sliders here are going to be different values for the CPU and the user, and that will be because of the settings you'll see later on. They will tie into why the values are different. We have pass error on 52 for the user, only 52, but that's because we're going to be using fully manual passing and not semi-assisted passing anymore. We're going fully manual. The pass error is still higher than default to increase the error, but it's only going to be on 52. Pass error for the CPU is on 64, so a higher error for them, but that's because you guys are going to be using fully manual passing, which is still going to be quite difficult. The shot speed for the user is on 45, whereas the shot speed for the CPU is on 43. So the shot speed for the CPU is slightly lower than that of the user. The pass speed for the user is on 45, so it's not that low, right? But that again is because you're using fully manual passing, where you will have to manually put in the power and the speed in your passes, whereas the CPU's pass speed is already down to 24. Injury frequency is on 75 for both user and CPU. This is because it was on 73 before, and I was not getting many injuries in my career modes specifically. For those of you guys who've been following my Real Madrid career mode, I think we've only gotten like 1 or 2 injuries all season, and of course you don't want an injury every single time. And with the same injury frequency slider in previous FCs or in previous saves, I'd get like an injury crisis, right? So it really is random. You can get like an injury crisis. Some people may be experiencing that, but for me, it was on 73 and I wasn't getting that many injuries, so I got up to 75, and that's where I usually have it, right? And then we have injury severity on 33, which is the same from where it was previously. The goal capability for both the user and the CPU is on 59, so they are the same, slightly lowered from previous, and the marking for the user is on 73, so it remains the same, but for the CPU it's dropped down to 67. The reason I've dropped it down to 67 is because I noticed in the previous set of sliders in the previous gameplay there were way too many sliding tackles. The CPU was putting in a lot of aggressive sliding tackles. Now those are still there, but not as much. Run frequency remains the same on 35 for both user and CPU. The line height remains on 60. The line length is now increased up to 36 from 30, and the reason is I saw the midfielders dropping way too deep when it was down to 30. Okay, they basically be a foot or two away from the defenders, and that's not realistic. You want them to be higher up the field. Of course, it makes it more difficult to get chances and to score goals when they're that deep, but they would literally drop back and run back. They would never engage. Like if you were driving at them with the ball, they drop back, and so would your midfielders as well. Specifically, they wouldn't engage the other position midfield. They'd drop back and just sit in front of the defense, and that's not good because then you're just facing shots from the edge of your box, which is not great. So they drops down to 35, and then the line width stays on 50 for both. Fullback positioning remains on 80. Unchanged. Power bar, I have it on 50. That's down to personal preference, so I have it on default because some people ask me about that. So yeah, it's on default. And then first touch control error is very, very different this time. For the user, it's all the way down to 14. And now it's a complete U-turn from usually increasing it and wanting more error, but with the more manual stuff. You're going to see them in a second here. Manual jockeying, manual through passing, manual passing in general. You want to decrease that first touch control error so that you have more of a fair playing ground, because the CPU, especially with the higher difficulties, which is where I play world class, legendary and ultimate, they are going to get more of the favor. So you kind of have to balance that to make it fair in a sense. Still challenging, still very, very difficult, right? Depending on the difficulty you play on, but it makes it more fair and playable. So 50-50 tackles may go either way now. They'll definitely be 50-50. It doesn't just always go to them. When you win the ball back, you actually win it back. You don't win it back and it double ricochets or whatever, right? First time shots are still difficult because the shooting is precision, is not fully assisted, but they give you a chance more. So the user's first touch control error is down to 14, but then the CPU's has been slightly lowered. It's down to 58. I believe this is the same from the update, but it's lowered from the original sliders. And then in terms of the CPU sliders, the AI behavior is on tactical. I have it on tactical. You can have it on dynamic. Dynamic is just more random. Dynamic is just you wanting more variety. So you may play against Manchester City, and in one game they'll play the tiki-taka style of play, but then the next game they'll play long ball, or they'll play Jurgen pressing or whatever. So dynamic is not as realistic as tactical, or even as realistic as custom, but it's more of a challenge. I choose tactical because tactical is slightly more realistic than dynamic, because each team plays according to the tactics that they have been set for them. Now, when you choose tactical, you'll see here all the values underneath are blanked out, right? Which means you can't change them yourself, but the game actually changes them depending on the opponent, right? But during a game, if you go to the menus, you'll still see them as 50. However, in career mode, if you go to the main menu within career mode and you go to these, you'll see the values are different. I think it's just a bug where you can't see them within the game, so it looks as if they're still 50, but they're very different. They're very different. You'll see each game. Some teams are a bit more direct. There's some teams where every goal kick is taken short, but then others, they always go long, right? So I go for tactical. If you want it to be more realistic, you can use custom and use the custom values I used for the very first slider video I did for FC25. That one is more realistic than this, right? But it's also slightly easier and slightly more predictable. I'm currently using tactical to get the balance. Tactical is kind of like the balance between the custom, which is more realistic, and the dynamic, which is more difficult. So I'm currently on tactical, but that's really down to you. Now let's go into the game settings. I'm only going to highlight the ones that have changed. All the others that I don't really elaborate on are the same from the very first slider set, right? But these are very, very important. First things off, through pass assistance is gone to fully manual. Increases difficulty. Makes it more challenging to sprint through defenders. At times, you may find it easier as well because the ball literally goes where you direct it, right? So in that way, you could say it's easier, but I find it more difficult. Same thing with the ground passes. Ground passes, for me, the most difficult part is finding the power. So I find myself using the ground-driven pass quite a lot to ensure that it gets there without it being overhit or without it going to the next guy. So it takes some getting used to. Of course, if this is way too difficult for you, do use semi, but bear in mind the passing will be significantly easier because we have lowered that pass error slider. All the other stuff are basically the same, and then jockeying is on manual. To those who still have it on assisted, take it to manual for more of a challenge to actually force you to position your players correctly. Use manual jockeying. Pass block assistance is on as well to make sure that the players step out and make those interceptions, for them to put their bodies on the line a bit more. Again, reduces the amount of goals you will both score and concede, making for more realistic scores. So those are the main changes in regards to the settings. If you guys want to check out all the other settings, you just pause the video at any point, but they are basically the same from the previous slider set. But that is basically the video. That is the update. Do let me know what you guys think about it. I currently am really enjoying the gameplay right now. You'll see the gameplay in the background. It looks way more realistic. It's actually a bit 50-50, right? In terms of the passing, it takes getting used to, man. I know it's going to be frustrating in the beginning where your players seem like they're idiots and can't make passes. But honestly, even adapting from semi-assistance to fully manual, it's still a big jump for me, right? And you'll make some mistakes, you get punished for your mistakes, but that's how you learn. If it's at a point where you find the game unplayable, by all means, go back to semi and use the pass error slider from the previous video, because that's more geared to semi-assistance. The pass error here is geared to fully manual stuff. But of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Drop a like on the video and subscribe as well. Do make sure to check out the Real Madrid career mode and other content on the channel. I've been Good You Crusher, and I'll see you guys next time.